Wheat School on RealAgriculture.com is brought to you by Syngenta Canada, Alberta Wheat Commission, and C&M Seeds.
Here at the NDSU Langdon Field Day by Dr. Jay Goos, Professor of Soil Science at NDSU. And Jay, you're looking at phosphate uptake in wheats, comparing historical varieties, different varieties. Maybe explain what you're looking for.
Yeah, what I'm looking for is about 25 years ago, I observed that some wheat varieties require less phosphorus than others for proper development and growth. And I observed that 25 years ago. I'm getting close to retirement, so I thought it might be nice to finish that story before I retire. And so what I did was I made a list from the USDA of wheat varieties that had achieved about 20% acreage planting in North Dakota for as long as they had records. And I was able to get 47 of those historic varieties from the USDA. We increased the seed, and then we tested the varieties to see which ones require the least phosphorus, again, for proper growth and development. And there are great differences with regards to the phosphorus needs of wheat varieties. The reason I'm concerned about this, sorry, there's a few mosquitoes out here. The reason I'm concerned about this is soil test levels for phosphorus tend to be dropping, and farmers are renting more land instead of owning it. And we're using crops now that just export more phosphorus from the land, particularly soybeans. And so some soil test levels tend to be dropping. Fertilizer phosphorus is more expensive and will probably become more expensive in the future just simply because there's a finite amount of rock phosphate in the world. Well, anyway, to make a long story short about these historical varieties, we did not find that the varieties that grow the fastest require more phosphorus. It would be intuitive to think that way. If they're growing faster, they would need more phosphorus. But what we have been finding is the varieties that develop the fastest, the ones that require the fewest growing degree days to create a new leaf on the main stem, those tend to require more phosphorus. And so we've done this with the historical varieties. And our next step is to look at about 50 current and future varieties just to see which ones require more phosphorus than others. You see, normal plant breeder would never detect this because plant breeding is normally done under high fertility land. They want the best land possible that's been heavily fertilized so they can find the varieties that have the most productivity, and that's logical. But hidden in there someplace, some varieties do require more phosphorus than others.
Is there any correlation between development and yield or production characteristics that farmers have? And then I guess...
Well, the rapid development has to do more with maturity. If it's taking fewer growing degree days to produce a leaf, it's going to head earlier, and so on. Varieties that have a sensitivity to day length and grow a little more slowly in the spring generally tend to require a little less phosphorus. Anyway, it's just been a fascinating subject to learn. Farmers seem to be interested in it, and hopefully we can characterize current and future varieties so that farmers, the farmer's going to grow a variety for a whole list of reasons, but I think a farmer should know too whether that particular variety really has a high need for phosphorus.
And that's what you're going to be looking at starting this fall?
Starting this fall.
The current and future varieties?
Current and future varieties, yep.
So do you think farmers... Or how do you see this being applied? Do you see farmers choosing varieties that are more efficient on phosphorus?
Well, not necessarily. I just think farmers are going to choose a variety based on yield and quality and the price of the seed and so on. But still, it's just one of many factors. Disease resistance. Farmers choose varieties for all sorts of reasons. I can give you an example. When Fusarium head blight or scab first came out, a lot of farmers grew 2375 was the name of the variety because it was the only thing at the time that had any modicum of resistance to that. Now those farmers were going to grow that variety. Well, we know now that that variety is one of the biggest phosphate hogs in the world, and you know, it really would have been nice to have known that in the 90s when farmers were growing that. The farmers were going to grow that variety because of its resistance to, or at least some small resistance to head scab, but they really should have been informed had we known then what we know now. Yes, grow that variety, but make sure you don't skimp on the phosphorus.
So it results in better management.
Yes, more knowledge is always better.
Well, thanks for your time.
Okay.